What is up, guys? Pie Muffin here, and we are back with another Tales-related video. So, obviously we're in Tales of the Rays, specifically for the background stuff, but that is not the main focus of this video, but I will be grinding out the current raid event in Tales of the Rays while I make this video. It's just kind of like, just something to have in the background instead of just putting like a still image or just random gameplay. I'm going to be sitting here farming the event while we just kind of talk for a bit. So, just today I've really just kind of come to realize a lot of things about this franchise, and I just kind of wanted to make a video about it. It's probably, I might get a little heated at points. I'm going to try not to. I'm going to try and, keep my temper at a minimum, but I will probably get a little frustrated at some things. So, what really brought this on about me wanting to make this video is just, I guess the tipping point for me was today realizing that this is the first year that Tales of the Rays itself has not done any sort of, funny April Fool's post or anything. Obviously last year, I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, they did the whole tease for Tales of Versus 2, but they were just using the models in Tales of the Rays for that. And then obviously every year they've kind of done something, somewhat comical. Whether it was in-game or just like a little video they post on their Twitter. And not, obviously this could come across as not really being that big of a deal, right? It's just like, oh, okay, they didn't do anything for April Fools. That's not really a big deal, right? And normally I would say yes. Some games don't always do an April Fool's thing every single year. But this is just kind of added on to a lot of other things. And now this is going to extend to Tales as a whole, but I want to start with Tales of the Rays because currently Tales of the Rays is the only Tales content to exist. Obviously, we had the Tales of Arise DLC last year, and then, of course, 2 years before that was Tales of Arise. And within that time, we've obviously seen Tales of Krystoria shut down, as well as Tales of Luminaria. So where I want to kind of go with this, we'll just go back a little bit over the last year or two for Tales of the Rays and kind of just talk about the series as a whole from there. So I want to start by saying I don't know how I want to word this. I don't think Tales of the Rays has that much. I would be surprised if we get an 8th anniversary. Now, we may still get an 8th anniversary where the game is still alive through that, but I don't think we're going to get another big celebration like we just did for the 7th anniversary now. And I know, I was one of the advocates for a long time, like, Tales of the Rays is doing fine, Tales of the Rays is this and that, but then just everything lately with Tales as a series as a whole has just made me not so, I'm just going to turn auto on for that, has made me not so sure anymore just because of everything that's happening. Anyone who, has been paying attention lately, one of the big things that just happened recently was that a bunch of Tales games got delisted on, I think it was the PS Vita and then PS3. And what it means when a game gets delisted, it means you can no longer purchase or download stuff for it online. So unless you have a physical copy of these games or the DLC, you will not be able to buy them again. Now, obviously, if you've already bought them, so like for me, for example, on my PlayStation 3, I have physical copies of all of the PS3 Tales titles, but I also have some of the DLC outfits. Now, as long as I never uninstall those DLC outfits, they'll forever be on my console, but that means I can never get rid of them for as long as my PS3 is still going to live. Like one example, I know for a fact I have the Douse costume for Milla for the first Tales of Xillia. So as long as I never uninstall that, I should continue to have that. But yeah, so they delisted a bunch of games. So that's a big thing for Tales right now. And just you look back, Tales of Symphonia Remastered, from what I understand, is still not completely bug-free. It obviously was released in a not perfect state, specifically more on the Switch than any other console. Obviously, I did a full playthrough on PlayStation, and I really had no bugs that I could see. I think there may have been one or two bugs that I maybe just glanced over as I was playing it, but I know that other people had more issues with it. And obviously, it was not the most optimized remaster to boot. And then just talking about Tales of the Rays specifically, so let's just look back at the last 2 years. So Spirit Gears, let's start with Spirit Gears. Spirit Gears have had obviously a huge decline in the last 2 years. In roughly the last 2 years, we have only gotten one Spirit Gear set. Maybe not 2 full years, but over the last year at least. Like, it's been about a year since we got our last Spirit Gear batch. So yeah, it's been roughly, in the last 2 years, we've really only gotten one. Maybe the last Spirit Gear batch before that was, you know, less than a year. So maybe we've had 2 Spirit Gear batches in the last 2 years. But obviously it used to be a thing where we would get a Spirit Gear batch every other month or every 3 months at most. So obviously we've seen a huge decline in that, which kind of understandable. Obviously the longer a gacha game drags on, the less people feel a need to spend money on it. Especially when it comes to an equipment gacha like this. Tales of the Rays is a game where once you have like a good 3 or 4 Mirage Arts for a character, specifically 3, and then at least one of those Mirage Arts has a dupe in it, you don't really need more than that. Like, obviously it's nice to get your favorite characters as high in power as you can, but it is not completely necessary because you're already geared up to clear most of the content in the game. Like, obviously the stuff we're farming right now, like, yeah, probably not the best example when I just got hit with a very powerful Mirage Art right there from Chromatus Ludger here. But for the most part, like, even just looking at my team right here, Estelle, I never need to summon for ever again. I've got like 7 or 8 Mirage Arts for her, and she is a character I don't need things for. Same with Victor. Even before pulling Victor's, obviously I got lucky enough to get his ending Mirage Art, but it's not like I needed it. I already had enough gear. You know, obviously only his normal Mirage Art just got replaced on my list of Mirage Arts I actually have equipped on him. So the longer a game is around, the less people need to summon, which means the less people need to spend money. Now at this point, people like me who have been playing since roughly when the game started, only feel a need to summon for characters they really, really care about. Obviously, if we did not get this Asteria L, I would not have touched this banner. I would have done the free multi and called it a day. I think that's pretty much, well, I did a few multis because obviously I wanted to pull L. I got lucky with Victor. I had to remember what exactly I got. But yeah, so banners like this where if it's not characters I'm like super into, like obviously if they drop some, like Lloyd is still waiting on an overray, so at some point if he gets one before the game shuts down, like, and I want to reiterate, I don't know that the game is going to shut down. I'm just preparing myself for a worst case scenario because we've obviously been hit with the end of service announcement. We usually know it's coming, like both for the global version of Tales of the Rays as well as Tales of Cristoria and Luminaria. We've pretty much had an idea when it was going to happen because you get this like 1 month period where they drop 0 content. You know, most games, you know, even if not every game has the same kind of schedule, most games you can tell what their schedule is. We know Tales of the Rays, they usually have 3, if not 4 events per month. So like, let's say for example, and they always drop the PV with it before the first event ends. So let's say for example, it's April right now. It's April 1st, about to be April 2nd. Let's say we don't get a PV this month, and they just drop like one or two. They drop like a small post on Twitter saying, you know, okay, here's the next event, and then the next event isn't until like the end of April. I would say, okay, this is a telling sign that things are not going that well. But obviously, I don't see us being at that point yet. I think we're still going to get the PV around April. Well, what's next Monday? Next Monday is the 8th. So yeah, I'm guessing either Sunday the 7th or Monday the 8th, they're probably going to drop the PV. They've been doing it closer and closer, obviously, to get people to summon more before stuff ends. But obviously, we should get that. And then we always know okay, from the 9th to the 19th is one event, from the 19th to the 29th, or whenever the last day of the month is another event, and then we have another event that starts at the very end of the month that bleeds into the next month. So once we start to see that stuff not happening, is when we start to be worried. That's what we saw with Crestoria. We had a point where, like, a month or two, amount of time, we just didn't get new content. They were just rerunning stuff, and then of course we saw the end of service notice, and it was the same thing with Luminaria. Like, Luminaria started to slow down with stuff, and then we saw that was going to be happening too. Although Luminaria from the get-go, I already was kind of not super believing it was going to last very long, because to me personally, it just had a horrible gacha system. It had a gacha system that really did not encourage people to want to summon. And obviously, I still think the idea to make a completely original story with no crossover characters for a gacha game is a bad idea. I think Luminaria should have been a console game. You had what was it, like 21 characters, something like that. You could have had a bunch of different campaigns on you could have had like 3 storylines that each followed the 3 different groups, and then you have a final story that comes out at the end. It could have been a very unique title, but as a gacha game, I had a feeling from the start that it just was not going to work. But yeah, so back to Raze. So obviously, right now, things still seem okay, but obviously, Spirit Gears have been very lacking. We've only gotten 1 Spirit Gear batch in the last year, and then there is also the fact that there was no 7th anniversary live stream. It's the first anniversary we had where they didn't do a live stream, which tells me maybe they wanted to prioritize saving their money for Tales of Festival this year, and that's why they decided to cut out having a live stream for Tales of the Raze. So, which is crazy to me, because you think about Tales of Arise, for example. A lot of people I feel like Tales of Arise is probably one of the more divisive games in the fandom. Like, there's always games where people are just very, iffy if they liked it or they hated it, and I feel like Arise is probably one of the biggest ones, because it was one of the games that had the biggest change to form. But what we can't deny is that it sold well. It sold over 2.5 million copies within the first, year. I think is when they hit the 2.5. It was like within a year they hit that sales, which made it the 3rd best-selling Tales game of all time. So you would think, and this is going to go into another point, just about Tales in general, you would think after having such a huge success, whether people, like it or not, it was a success of the game for the series. So Tales expectedly would have taken that momentum to keep pushing forward, but after Arise's release, we saw Luminaria shut down, and obviously Crestoria shut down, very shortly after Arise's release. And then, so we had those 2 mobile games shut down right after Arise did so well, when they probably could have used some of that money to, I guess, fix the glaring issues with those titles and make things better, but maybe there was just no going back. Maybe Crestoria Luminaria was already very expensive because it had an English dub and I know a lot of people love the English dubs for Tales games, but unless Luminaria was a console game, I don't think it needed to have an English dub. Plus, it had such a stellar cast that I'm sure wasn't cheap. So, I think that was also another shot in the foot for it being a gacha game. And then for Crestoria, I just feel like the graphics were too high-end to be sustainable for the kind of franchise Tales is. Tales is not Final Fantasy. It doesn't have that kind of sizable fan base. So I do think moving forward, games with graphics like Tales of the Raze we have here, or even going back to something like what Tales of Link had for, if they do another mobile game in the future, I think is what they should probably do. I know I don't have anything scripted for this video, I'm just kind of talking, so I don't really have a direction I'm really going with this, so sorry if I kind of jump from point to point. But yeah, so the overall point I'm trying to make is, with talking about Tales of the Raze, talking about, everything what the series is it doesn't really feel like the higher-ups with this franchise know exactly what direction they want the series to go in. You know, Tales of Arise did great. Obviously, it's not my favorite Tales game, but it's not my least favorite Tales game. It's just somewhere in there in the middle. I had a good time with it. You know, I had a fun time. But one success does not excuse the constant downgrades we've had since its release. Ever since Arise is released, everything Tales has done since then has been a downgrade. The botched release of the Symphonia Remaster, the shutdown of 2 mobile games. The Tales of Arise DLC was not... I might get some hate for this. It was not an acceptable release. There was nothing in Tales of Arise that was worth the, what was it, $30, $35? It was not worth that price point. I don't remember exactly how much it was. I don't know if it was $20, $30, $40, but there was nothing in there that could not have just been a free update. I genuinely feel like that could have just been a free... honestly, yeah, it could have just been a free update, because all the DLC really did was have us relearn arts we already had. It lowered our level to regain levels again, and then we just played through a short story. I would have honestly even been fine if they had just done like an anime OVA for like a post story instead of a DLC. Like, just do a quick, like, 45-minute thing that covers all that stuff. And I think it would have been far more accepted than the DLC was, because obviously I had fun while I was playing it, but after the fact, even like a week later, I was like, that was just kind of completely a waste. It was kind of a nothing burger of content. You know, I liked Nazamil. Like, I liked the whole point of her character, but I still stand with what I said I was playing it, where I feel like this is something they probably originally wanted to have in the main game, but maybe they didn't have time to do it after all the delays. They didn't want to delay it again. I feel like Nazamil should have been like... Who can I really compare her to? Be like the L of the group. So L from, obviously, as funny as it is, we're doing this event right now. You know, have her be not a playable character, but someone who is with the group and she's learning as they go through this journey. I would have even been fine if they met her when you first go to the Water Temple, and that's where you first meet Nazamil, so like right before the second half of the game starts, and then they could have extended the second half of the game, because the second half of the game was so short and quick. They could have extended the second half of Arise to include all of her storyline, and then it would have felt like a much more finished product. But it's just like... So, obviously, like I said, Symphonia Remastered, botched release of a game that's already been re-released multiple times. I still appreciate having it on modern console. You know, I've started my New Game Plus on my own. I'm happy to have it, but it wasn't something that would have been my top priority to have. So that happened. 2 mobile games shut down. Arise DLC was not a necessary release. And then now, Tales of the Rays is seemingly starting to falter in terms of content and just, you know, kind of, I guess, love to the games, or to the game. And it makes me really get to the point, this is the point I was trying to kind of get to from the beginning. Can we, and I made some Twitter posts about this earlier today, can we really trust that the next mainline game is going to be even good? Because regardless of what you feel about Arise, you know, me personally, I enjoyed it. Like, that's all I really need to say. I had a good time. Is it something I'm ever going to replay? Probably not. But I had fun with it, you know, as I played it. But now I'm worried that the next mainline, with them seemingly not really knowing what they're doing with the series, I don't know if it's, you know, change in leadership since, you know, Tomizawa took over. I don't know what's going on over there, but it really just feels like they don't know what the fans want, and they don't know what they want with the series. So I just worry that the next mainline is going to be a... And I don't like to make this comparison, because I do really like Tales of Zestiria as a game, but it might be a Zestiria situation where they just kind of miss the mark. You know, they come off the heels of several very good releases, and then it's going to be an anniversary. This is going to be the 30th anniversary title. You know, presumably, like they said, that every mainline moving forward, because of how long it takes to make these games, are going to be on the main anniversary. So 2025/2026 will probably be when we get the next mainline. You know, unless there's like some crazy delays again, like there was between Berseria and Arise. That should be when we get the next mainline title. But now I'm worried that it's not going to be... I've had worries even before all this stuff was happening, but right now my worry is just that the game is not going to feel finished because they don't really know what they're doing. And my other worry is that it's not going to be different enough from Arise to where because you look at every Tales game in existence, every game has its own unique identity. There's not a single Tales game that's exactly, obviously barring a direct sequel, there's not a single Tales game that is exactly the same as another Tales game. Everything has something about, whether it's the combat, the characters, the style of the game, the world, every game has its own unique feel to it. And if we get the next mainline and it feels like Arise 2.0, but just with a different cast of characters, like, I'm going to be very upset. Because that's not what I want for Tales. I don't want every single game to just, moving forward, to be like Arise. I want every game to have its own identity, like the series has always had. So that's what I'm kind of worried about, is that they're just going to make Arise 2.0, but we're just going to have a new cast of characters. And not to say I hate Arise, I'm just saying I don't want the same game twice, is what I'm saying. Every game should have its own unique identity, if that makes sense. So that's where my head's kind of at when it comes to the series, where things are at right now. And I'm just worried that, you know, with current management how it is, I'm not sure what they're really kind of going for, but I just get frustrated. You know, I have played, I think there's only what titles have I not finished? I have played most titles in the series. There's only a few. So Fantasia, Destiny, Destiny 2, and Tempest, I believe, are the 4 titles I have yet to play a version of. Well, I've started I started the remaster of Destiny. So there's only 3 titles that I haven't touched in some form or another. And that's why I can say every single one of those games has had its own identity. Like I said, barring direct sequels like Xillia to Xillia 2, which even then, Xillia and Xillia 2 still do have their own identity. They made Ludger such a unique character to play. So even those games have their own identity from each other. But all the other titles, they all have something about them. Even the 2D titles, they all have something about them that's unique to them. Like, not every 2D title plays exactly the same. Every 2D title has its own unique kind of gameplay systems, or skit style, or art style. Like, you look at Legendia. Legendia has a vastly different, and obviously, you know, different artists and stuff attribute to that. Legendia has a very different style than any other Tales game. But yeah, that's kind of where my head is at. I'm very curious to see what other people think, what they're kind of thinking about the series right now. Obviously, we have Tales of Festival this June. I do want to reiterate that Tales of Festival is not a game announcement convention, so do not expect... They might do something where they say, hey, we're working on the next title, the name of it is going to be this, but don't expect character reveals. They're not going to bring the voice actors on stage. You know, none of that stuff. That stuff, as we've seen in recent years, is saved solely for international conventions like, you know, E3. E3 is not anymore, but it used to be E3. You know, like E3, Summer Games Fest, Tokyo Game Show. That's where they usually show this stuff. Like both Vesperia Definitive Edition, Tales of Arise, and Symphonia Remastered were all shown at international events. So Tales of Festival is not going to be a place to show stuff like that. They might talk about where the series is going and stuff like that, but it's not going to be a place for trailers and stuff like that. But yeah, so we'll have to see what kind of happens with that. But that's my overall thoughts. I'm just very worried where the series is going, and obviously the next candidate for the chopping block is Tales of the Rays, with them seemingly cutting funding for the game, and I think that's why they're just kind of sticking on the safe side for like recollection, Mirage Arts, and stuff like that, because it's much easier for them to just code in an alt weapon than to do, and this goes into another point, and we haven't gotten a lot of costumes lately, The only time we get costumes now are for actual seasonals. Like, obviously, Ori got a special outfit here. They gave us an alt outfit for L here. But overall, it's not, they don't do outfits as much as they used to. It's very infrequent compared to how it used to be, so. Yeah, I'm hoping I'm wrong and that Raze still has a couple years of life left, but with how many Tales mobile games I've seen shut down, I am going to be wary. I don't think 7 years is a bad amount of time for a game to live and kind of be done, but because obviously the story of Tales of the Raze is over, and the Recollection story, from what we understand, is about to end too, so it ending isn't the worst thing in the world, but obviously it's the only, it's the only mobile game to play like an actual Tales title. And you have all these characters that were not playable in their original game. I'm playing as Victor right now. I'm playing as one of the main antagonists from Tales of Xillia 2. I have a mobile game character as my second character, and then I have a character that was never playable, L, as a final character here. Like, L was never playable in any game before now, and now she's a full character with her own full moveset. Like, I can actually move around as her, which is crazy. But yeah, so that's kind of where my head's at, and I think this is where I'm going to end off the video. Definitely let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know what you think is going to help out the series moving forward. And I guess, I mean, obviously my big thing is just like, if they're going to delist all these games, make them accessible on modern consoles. I don't know what that's going to take if they have to. My idea years ago was do a 2D and a 3D collection. So you release, kind of like what Kingdom Hearts has with their 2 separate collections. So make a collection for the 2D titles. So, you know, you got, so that would be Fantasia, Destiny, Eternia, Destiny 2. Symphonia is still technically a 2D title. It's 3D, but I still kind of see it as 2D because you still get, you don't have free run, but no, I guess it's still technically a 3D title. But you've got Rebirth, Legendia, Tales of Hearts. So you just take all of those. Well, I guess it would depend if they went with Tales of Hearts DS or if they went with R. They'd probably go with R, so it probably wouldn't be in the 2D section. But essentially just do collections of the game that aren't accessible. So basically everything from Fantasia all the way up to Xillia 2, just make different collections, or, you know, just get to work on porting them to modern systems so people can actually buy and play these games and not just see them disappear and never be able to play them. But those are my thoughts on everything. So let me know what you guys think down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day, everyone.